Hey everybody, welcome back to the third episode of Purpose. I'm here with my good friend Kari. I have her here just to share a bit of her testimony and how she really has experienced freedom from a past and is going to see so much more freedom in her future. But to start, I met Kari at Skid Row here in Los Angeles. Her and Dustin and their family, they go down to Skid Row and they just hang out with the people down there, get to know the guys and the ladies and just invest in them and speak life to them and just build relationships, which it is the coolest thing to see. I was really inspired and encouraged, so seriously, thank you for that. Since then, I've gotten to know a little bit more about Kari and we actually just talked, so I heard the details, the ins and outs in a lot of ways of her testimony, and it's inspiring, it's moving, it's encouraging, and so I'm really excited for her to share that with you. And how that starts was all the way back to high school.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and there wasn't a whole lot going on besides playing sports.
Right.
Everyone kind of pushes their kids into sports, and the drinking starts at a pretty young age, but I think I started drinking when I was 13. Wow. And my parents didn't know that though. I was very good at, sorry mom and dad,
yeah,
I know
right?
they know
they
that
know
now. I was a sophomore when I kind of had a little bit of just an episode. My friends and I were going to a basketball game and we were drinking the whole way there, the whole way home, and three of my good friends ended up molesting me. I remember being awake and knowing what was happening, but I had drank so much I couldn't really move or stop it. A couple of my friends who were driving and the guy in the passenger seat had yelled at my friends to stop, but I just remember from that moment on I just felt horrible about myself and just so much shame, and just that made me really insecure, and that's honestly when I started drinking a lot, because I was just trying to use alcohol as a means to just escape from what I was feeling.
And that's so hard because you had nothing to do with that. It wasn't something that you did, it was something done to you, and yet you experienced so much shame, and it changed your life more than it may have changed somebody else's. And
Yeah, it was super challenging. It's definitely where everything started, even just losing my virginity, from, drinking. I did a lot of stuff. It's funny how I would make mistakes with alcohol, and then I would keep going back to use the thing that kept making it. It was just this vicious cycle, you know what I mean? It was just
And then college was an even crazier time in a sense, but the way you got there, and then ultimately how God kind of brought it together in a weird way without you knowing. Explain that, because I thought that was so interesting.
So God definitely has a sense of humor. So I was playing volleyball in high school a lot. I played everything, but volleyball was my best sport, and I had gotten a lot of offers to play in college, and there was this one coach that saw me play, and he was from a small little school in Tennessee. And so I had gone out to Tennessee to visit, and I ended up, the volleyball team actually took me out to a party, and I had so much fun with them. And so I literally picked my college based off of one party, which is ridiculous. But it turned out, this is why God has a sense of humor, it was a Christian college.
Amazing.
So that's where all the seeds were definitely planted. I was always getting in trouble. I was always sneaking out after curfew. I actually had a volleyball coach who was a super godly woman, very strong in her faith. I thought she had it out for me. She was always punishing me, and rightfully so. But I really honestly just thought she was jealous or something weird, things I would make up in my head that why she didn't like me. I remember her just calling me into her office all the time and just being like, God has put you on my heart, and I was just like, I don't know what that means.
Thanks.
God, thanks. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It's funny too, because a lot of my friends had gotten saved, and I was having to go to mandatory Bible studies and chapels and youth group stuff, and I literally would just put my headphones in, and I just would not engage in any of it. I just wasn't about it at all.
Nothing to do with it.
So a lot of my friends stopped hanging out with me too, because I was I was a bad influence on them. So
That is
Yeah,
crazy.
I know.
Life turns around in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. That's awesome. I think it's cool how you said, though, that the seeds were planted, because there's so many seasons of your life. You know, maybe you grew up in a Christian home or you went to a Christian college, but you just didn't have that personal relationship with the Lord. You didn't want anything to do with it. But don't underestimate the seeds planted. Or if you are trying to encourage someone and be the light in their life, don't underestimate the seeds that you are planting, and know that, like, they're gonna come about. Like, it's gonna happen. God is faithful to see it to the end. So
Amen.
I think it's cool, because Kari is literally like a testimony to that. Seriously. After college, you and your brother moved to New York City.
Yes.
And that was 3 months of craziness.
Oh yeah. So my brother had been living in New York for a year, and I moved out there after college. 3 months. The very first week I was in New York, I met club promoters, which I didn't know what that was. They invited me to go out to different clubs literally every night of the week. And that's when drinking got out of control, because it was unlimited alcohol. I'd never been around anything like that. And God definitely had his hand on me the whole time. It's a miracle nothing bad ever happened to me, because I remember my brother just screaming at me every night I'd get home. I was blacked out. I would literally go to the club in Manhattan. We lived in Harlem. Like, I would have to walk 7 blocks. There were like gangs outside and drug deals happening, and I would be by myself in a skimpy dress, high heels, blacked out drunk, just walking past people. And I don't ever remember one person saying something to me. But that's also when the drinking started really getting heavy, because I was introduced to like liquor and that whole scene.
Right. I think it's cool too how you mentioned his protection and his hand was over you, because God literally sends his angels around us to protect us.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that nothing ever happened
It's
like
amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So then you moved to Los Angeles.
Yes.
And Los Angeles was a season, kind of like a new season. You started a career in the modeling industry and basically achieved everything that a lot of people are after.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be.
So when I moved to LA from New York, I signed with an agency pretty quickly. I was doing a lot of jobs like all over the world. I was traveling on billboards, magazines, movies, television, commercials, you name it. I was very busy. Everything basically that every girl wants or thinks she wants to do, I got to do that, but it still wasn't fulfilling. You know, there was still this emptiness there, and which is really why I would still drink a lot. You know what I mean? I was still trying to fill this void. I didn't know what I was missing, but I knew something was still missing. The partying and all of that came with that whole lifestyle. You know, the partying comes with modeling. Like, it's just, you're in that scene, everyone's throwing alcohol at you. It's like you're getting invited to different clubs and parties all the time. I'd be going to like the Playboy Mansion and parties in the hills and mansions and celebrities' houses and stuff, and it was just constant. Like, there was always something to do. Actually, I got invited to a party in Vegas. It was for I think it was US Weekly magazine, or maybe it was People Mag. I don't know. It was some magazine party. Yeah, I don't know what it was. But my girlfriend and I went there, and that's when I met my ex. I was actually engaged, and we met partying, and the whole relationship started physical, just like all my relationships had before. And that was 4 years of like craziness and dysfunction. And anyways, that's a whole nother story. But I was with him. I had started doing ecstasy and smoking weed all the time. He was making a ton of money. He was also working in Vegas and just was gone all the time, which is why I would numb myself with alcohol or whatever I could find to just keep myself busy and not worrying about what he was doing. It was just, the whole relationship was based off insecurities.
Right.
So just like any other female, I feel like, especially in LA, everyone's searching for like that guy that can just take care of them, and they think that's security.
Right.
And so I too thought that, like, you know, that was my security, was that he made tons of money and we lived on the beach and we got to travel and he bought me nice things.
Right.
And I was still so empty and depressed. And so yeah, I just had this total like false sense of security. I didn't know what that actually was at the time. time, but
Until you found Jesus.
yes, that's when the story gets so awesome.
That's right, that's when the story gets good. What was the moment that things started changing, or who encouraged you in that way?
So in August of 2014 is when literally everything changed. I was going to a pub crawl. It was like a birthday party in Newport Beach with my ex, and it was his friend's birthday. So we had been drinking all day long, just going bar to bar to bar. And I, of course, got blacked out. I would do this like once a month, where I would just lose it and just drink so much. I would say mean things. I was just awful. But I was yelling at him, and I threw my engagement ring at him, and someone had called the cops on me. I don't remember any of that, but he told me what had happened later that night. This was during the day, I was starting to sober up, and he was telling me what I did, and I was just obviously feeling horrible about myself. But at that point, I was on our balcony on the 9th floor, and I was trying to jump, and I was out there for hours just trying to do it, and I just couldn't, and I fell asleep crying. I literally, more or less, I passed out crying after attempting to do this. And the next morning, I was just laying in bed, really depressed and just sitting in so much shame. And I got on Facebook, because that's what you do, like browsing Facebook, and I found a speech by Ashton Kutcher at the Teen Choice Awards, and he was talking about people who had changed history, like Martin Luther King, all these people who are no different than you and I. They didn't have extra hours in the day or something, and I was just sitting there thinking about my own life, like, wow, what am I doing? Like, I have no purpose. I get more excited about happy hour and going to clubs with my friends, and I just totally got so far off track. And I texted my brother at the time, and he had been going to church for a few months. Okay. And he made me commit to 3 things. He asked me to stop drinking for a while, start going to church with him, and to start volunteering.
I love it.
He was like, you're just living kind of a selfish lifestyle, so you should just start volunteering. And so I committed to those 3 things, and my life just drastically changed from those 3 things.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Just 3 changes, and like your whole life, your mentality, your thoughts, everything. All of it started evolving.
Yeah. It was amazing. Unbelievable.
Okay, so you met an adorable little old man when you were volunteering who really like impacted your life. How did he do that?
I had gotten matched with this 87-year-old man. He was a fighter pilot in the Korean War, and he had I think it was a month to live. They put him on hospice, and I was just going there to spend time with him. And God's so funny. He was a Christian, and so it was so amazing because he was bedridden. He was blind, he could barely hear out of his left ear, but he was so sharp. He remembered everything. He remembered our conversations more than I could. It was crazy, but he was just teaching me so much, and I would sit with him for hours and hours. And I remember the moment that everything shifted. I was sitting with him, and one of the nurses, I guess, had told him that she thought I was pretty or whatever. Yeah. And he's blind, so he told me, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see you in heaven." And I'm telling you, I lost it. I could not get it together, and I just, in that moment, felt purpose for the first time in my life. I was just doing something for someone else other than myself,
right.
And I was just very, very selfish my whole life, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so what I felt in that moment with him, man, I just of all the things that I've gotten to do in my life, all the parties, all the yachts and traveling and fancy things and being on billboards and magazines, all these things that I thought were so amazing, I never felt what I felt with him in that moment. That's when everything changed, and I was just oh my gosh, how many people am I going to touch before I leave this earth? How many people am I going to get to see in heaven who have said, you inspired me, or you impacted my life, or thank you for praying for me? And that's what it was about, and I just, all that other stuff felt so meaningless. I was just wow, how was that everything to me? I just didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know any better.
you also had that coach in college who had it out for you, or so you thought. You found out she was a Christian, and she really was a godly woman, loved the Lord. And so after you got saved, you sent her your journals?
So when I first got saved, the very first person I thought of was my coach in college. And I was just realizing like what a powerhouse she was, and she was such a godly woman and just so righteous and wanted what was best for us.
Right.
And she just cared so much and loved so unconditionally. But I had sent her my journals that I'd been writing, and she wrote me back like in all capital letters with all exclamations, like, I am in tears, like, I've literally been on my knees praying for you for 8 years.
Wow.
She's like, I never stopped, I always saw so much inside of you, but you just need the Lord, you're just lost. And she was like, I've literally been on my knees for 8 years praying for you. So that blew me away and was just like, rocked me just on the power of prayer and to just be persistent with people who don't know Jesus. And thank God for her, and that she's the reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really, that I have a relationship right now with Jesus Christ, like, it's because she didn't stop.
Right, and there is so much power in prayer, and recognizing that you are the product of that probably only encourages you more to be persistent in praying for all those people in your life.
I pray for everyone.
That's good. That's good. So just know Carrie's praying for you.
Oh yeah, I got my little war room in my bedroom, and my little spot.
That's so important. That's amazing. So at this point, your relationship that you were in with your ex-fiance, it wasn't working out anymore. Yeah.
So you could imagine, I went through this radical, I mean, the minute I walked into church, I was just like, tears were flooding. I felt like I'd been missing that my whole life, but I didn't know it. And so being engaged to someone who wasn't going through that was super difficult, and I was trying so hard to get him to get it and to like be so in love with Jesus, and you just can't force that. And so that caused a lot of problems. I was just feeling convicted about things, and I mean, just being in the Word, God was just totally transforming my thoughts, my mind, the way I thought about stuff, my view on everything. And so I just believed His Word, you know what I mean? I just really believed it. And so I was serving a lot at the church I was at, and I decided to go on a retreat in the mountains. It was like 800 people from our church going. And my fiance and I at the time were trying to make it work. It just was not working. We were in two different directions. And I thought if he went to this retreat with me, it might save our relationship, and I had some hope that he was going to go. And then 2 days before, he had told me that he wasn't coming, that he was going to Vegas instead, and I was just like heartbroken. I went there just totally depressed. I didn't even want to go anymore, but I ended up going and just like praying the whole time I was there. And it was the last day. I was in worship for the first time, and I literally was out in the field just worshiping God, and I felt Him just like take everything away. Like all the feelings I had for my fiance, He just took it all, and I felt nothing for Him, and it just like He just like released me from that.
That's amazing.
So that was the hardest decision I've ever made, was to move out of my place on the beach where He paid for everything. Like I was very comfortable. And I just knew I couldn't be there anymore, so I ended up moving out, and I moved in with my best friend in Marina Del Rey. I slept on her couch for like 3 months, and it was a huge change. And at that same time when I was living with my best friend, I just started serving at church. So I was spending all my time volunteering, doing whatever I could at the church, and a room opened up in her place, and she actually asked me to move in. And if you know anything about me, like I love the beach, so I really wanted to live with her, but I felt God kind of calling me to just be closer to my church in Hollywood, and I was just like, serious, God, like that's the last thing I want to do. I hate living in Hollywood. I don't want to go back and live with my brother. That's the only other option I had. So it was a really hard decision then too, to like be obedient and go where He was calling me. And I had to tell her 2 weeks before I was supposed to move in that I wasn't going to live with her. And that was hard to tell my best friend, who I'm like, I feel like God's calling me to Hollywood, and she's just like, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what does that even mean? So I ended up paying $1,600 for my first month's rent with her, just to help her out, to give her an extra month, and I didn't even have the money to do that, but I was just trusting God would provide. So yes, I ended up moving back in with my brother, closer to my church. So
I have a question for you. So when like God was calling you to step out, to leave what was comfortable, and yes, when you did do that, things were uncomfortable. There was adjustments to be made, but did you ever feel a lack of peace, or was peace always there?
oh my gosh, I've felt the most, it's supernatural. I mean, the peace that I've felt throughout this whole process has been, I can't explain it. But
Right. It surpasses all understanding.
Oh yeah, it truly does. Like I know what that scripture means.
Yeah.
Now. It's like I just was so confident in who he was, and that he wouldn't bring me somewhere that he would, he would never fail me. I just knew it.
Yeah, and I think that that's so important, because we all strive for comfort. It is what we want in a lot of ways, but when God asks you to step out of it, like he is so faithful to be there with you.
And I think that's like such a, I didn't really realize it till we're talking right now, how powerful that part of my testimony is like just choosing to be uncomfortable, because it's really hard to do, you know what I mean? But just making those decisions, because when God's speaking something.
Yeah,
like,
you do.
You can't like run away from it. You can choose to just stay comfortable, but when he's speaking, and to just like you said, it's just incredible, like that he'll just walk you through everything with peace.
His peace.
Yeah.
His peace, which is, you can't recreate it, you can't question it, because it is so, it's just so supernatural, it's undeniable, and it's what keeps you going in so many of those situations. So that was Kari's testimony, where she was to where she is now, but there's a future, and there's things to be excited about, and things to dream about, and what is it? What are the visions that God's given you? What is on your heart that you want to see happen in the next few years, the next 50 years, however that goes?
Yes, so early on in my walk with the Lord, I felt like he was putting it on my heart to create a positive reality show that was going to break stereotypes and get people to stop judging one another and get to know people's stories. So that's what I've done over the last, it's been a year and a half, and Dustin and I together have created a show. It's called D+. I just think it's really going to break down those walls and stereotypes and bring unity. And our group of people that God's brought together in the show are all just different characters, different backgrounds, different races, ages. Everyone's just so unique and special, and just people you would never think you would have been friends with. We've all become really good friends. And so I think overall my heart definitely is for young girls and women, and to just be transparent and vulnerable about my own experiences, and creating a space for them to just feel empowered and be able to be open and encouraged. And I'm super passionate about like helping people find the freedom that I've found, in so many areas, even just body image and appearance and stuff like that. So I feel like I have a lot of stuff that girls can relate to. I'm just excited to go to speak into that.
That's amazing. So it's cool, because the pain and everything that you've gone through gets you up to this point. And God says, like, I'll use what was meant for evil for good.
Right.
And so he's going to do that. And people are going to benefit and be encouraged, because you decided, I'm not going to let my past and my hurts and my stories, I'm not going to be a victim to them. Like, I'm going to find the victory in it, and I'm going to reach more people because of it. And I think that that's amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you all for watching. Kari, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm very excited for you and for your future. And
I'm excited for you. I love that you're doing this. It's so necessary.
It's so amazing. I love that we all get to do this together. And just know that your heart is pure. It's good, and you really are going to impact lives. And I'm so thankful to be a part of yours at all. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time in episode 4.
Bye.